Sure.
I do.
I think this is okay. I think this is okay.
I think we're good. Cool. Wow, look at all you. Thanks for coming, everybody. My name is Tim Cullings, Executive Director of Seattle Indies. If this is your first time at a Seattle Indies event, welcome, and if it's not, then welcome back, and we're glad to see you again. Seattle Indies is a nonprofit organization that supports game developers here in the greater Seattle area with events like this. We do multiple events a month, at least 15 to 20 sometimes. Ranging from small social gatherings all over the state now, from up to Bremerton all the way down to Olympia and everywhere in between. We're doing little meetups here and there of 10 to 20 people getting together and talking about games, making games, developing games. We have our Discord that is filled with close to 7,000 people now, all game developers talking about making games all the time, and there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's always it's a lot of great people. As I mentioned, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is supporting game developers here. We have some big events coming up at the end of August that I hope you'll all check out. The main one being Slice, Seattle Loves Indie Creators Expo. It is our attempt to bring a game developer focused event back to Seattle. There really hasn't been one in a long time, since probably PAX Dev stopped happening back in like 2019. And there's close to 50,000 of us here, so why don't we have an event like that? Like, why do we have to go to why do we have to go to San Francisco or LA or Germany or Japan or wherever, all over the world? I mean, I like going to those places, but like I see a lot of the same faces that I see in this room right now when I go there, and why not have something for us here to celebrate Seattle and how great a place it is to make video games, and hopefully bring the rest of the world here to us too. So you can go to seattleslice.org, find out about all the amazing speakers we have. Ty will be doing a fireside chat with Eric Barone from Stardew Valley, creator of Stardew Valley, who's from right here in beautiful Seattle, Washington. Created that game here. We'll have some other amazing speakers, people from Xbox, Unity, Epic, Valve, Kickstarter, Discord, plus, a lot of great independent game developers, AA game developers, we'll have publishers, investors, you name it. It's going to be a full day of fun and learning and connecting at McCaw Hall. It's a big, beautiful place. Geez, I hated that I just used those words together, but it's an orchestra hall. If you've never been there, it's in Seattle Center, right under the Space Needle. We're going to be there August 27th all day, closing out with a concert from Danny B, who made the soundtracks to the Super Meat Boy, Crypto the Necro Dancer. Awesome indie soundtracks. It's going to be a fun time. So hope to see you there. Like I said, tickets, everything on sale, seattleslice.org. If you join our Discord, you can find a 25% discount on tickets, one price for the whole day. There's also some QR codes around if you want to buy tickets tonight, please do. And then we also have 6 Seattle Indies Expo on Sunday of PAX West weekend. This will be the 15th year that we've been doing 6. And we will have 40 games from our community on display there, taking up 2 floors of the Motif Hotel this year. I see a couple people at least here tonight that are going to have games at 6, and you can come and play those all day for free. You don't need a PAX badge. Bring your family, play awesome indie games, meet cool developers, learn more about our community. So tonight we have a panel of experts, awesome founders, all from here in Seattle, Washington. The event is sponsored by Excel Bytes. We have their founder, June, on the panel tonight joining us. Thank you for feeding us and providing us with drinks and making this whole event happen. So, go to SeattleSpace.org, SeattleIndies.org, find out about our events there. And I will let John, who's our moderator tonight, take it away.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Okay, Tim, one question for you before you wander off. How much time do we have?
We got an hour.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we leave enough time for questions. So tonight's topic is founders and founding a game company. So we'll start by doing a quick round of introductions and then dive right in. So I'll let you start. Just go from one side to the other.
So my name is Jude. I started a company called Axelback. We provide game backend for larger AAA and also indie developers now. We've been around for 8 years. Before that, I was at various game AAA type of studios. Always on the game backend, live services type of stuff. So background mostly on the product and engineering side.
And what's the biggest game that's using Accelerate right now?
We launched Superbike and One Game last week. So
Okay.
before that, there was a few.
Okay. Hello.
Directional, right? Okay. My name is Bogo. I have a game studio called Claytoken. We make kind of cutting edge games for hardcore gamers. Currently, we are building a next generation of MOBAs. You'd like to think. It's called Space Apocalypse. It's a mobile machine swarms in a destructible city. We've been working on this for about 7 years now. We raised about $1.5 million to fund this project. So now, and before that, been on Microsoft and Amazon and other. It's always on game and game adjacent graphics simulation type of technologies. So engineering background, sort of found.
Hi, I'm Michael Augustin. I'm a founder and CEO of Curie, and we do 3D reconstruction for Meta and ByteDance. I guess I got my start doing AI for video games for Activision, then worked at Apple and EPC developers, and then started my first company in 2007 called Game Salad, which was the first no-code solution for mobile. It grew to 3 million developers developing 10 million apps reaching 100 million players per month. Roughly 21% of games being uploaded to the iOS App Store were built in Game Salad. So it's roughly the same penetration rate as WordPress or Shopify, but for video games. This is my third sort of AI company. So the first one did natural language code, that was Game Salad. Second one was natural language to images, 2013. And this one is doing reality to digital twins.
And so is there, when you say 3D reconstruction, is there an example that you can give of sort of how it gets used or how it is used?
We all chose to be here. Why did we choose to be here instead of Zoom or on Discord, right? It's because we value the information that we receive in person or true to life. And so we use 3D reconstruction for life experiences. Most 3D reconstruction models like Meshi, CSM, Luma are based on gaming data and can only hodgepodge and Frankenstein monster other gaming assets. And they're overfit on those gaming assets. So like if you train on Mario, then you'll get back Mario. But if you try to replicate 1 billion products, that's the worst scenario, then you'll get garbage. So we focus on the physical world and we're the first to reach product accuracy with no human in the loop. And so we're hoping to digitize all the world's things.
Awesome. Thanks. So John Kimmick, you're the moderator for this evening. My background is I've been in games for almost years. Started out in the Microsoft Games Group before there was Xbox. Did product and company acquisitions for them. Did that for 7 years. Then I moved on to see what it was like to be an independent game developer, worked for a company called Day One Studios in Chicago for a number of years, and finally moved back to Seattle And for the past 15 years, I consult and advise to video game companies and founders on strategy and growth, and then sale and exit.
And Pavan, I ran a game studio from 2021 to 2024. We pivoted to fintech after that. We did 2 web games, 2 mobile games. They were all really hard. But we had some success. I can share that with you. And I got to start the company with a really good friend of mine. And that's really what motivated me to want to do it. I wanted to work with him.
Hi, I'm Ty Taylor. I'm an independent game developer. I've been making games probably my entire life, but the big game everyone knows me for is The Bridge, which I launched about 15 years ago. Or I guess I started 15 years ago, launched it 13 years ago. And I made Tumblestone after that. I turned my development studio, The Bridge was 2 people, Tumblestone was 4 people. Was it a studio? It doesn't matter. But I decided that I wanted to be a publisher, turned QAG into a publishing label. We did Cozy Grove and Round Guard, Sailforth, Marvel Ultra, and a handful of other local independent games to pretty much help them release, bring them to consoles, market them, things like that. I decided that I was bored by that, and I'm an independent game designer, so I'm going back into making games again.
Okay, so before we actually get started, I want to do a quick poll of the audience. How many founders in the room do we have? Oh, wow. Okay, that was more than I'm expecting. How many people want to become founders? How many people are not founders or want to become founders, but are just trying to understand how their bosses think when they make crazy requests? Okay. So let's start with the basics. What are sort of the basic things that you should ask yourself, or that you did ask yourself, or that you wished you'd asked yourself when you decided, you and a couple of your friends sitting around the table, or like, we have a thing we want to make, and now what? Let's start with that.
Do you actually like what you're doing? If you would do it for a hobby and you wouldn't get paid for it, then maybe that's a good direction to go. If it feels like doing paperwork for a living and you hate it, but you think it's lucrative, question it.
Yeah, like if you're passionate about it, that's really important. If you're going to spend your free time on it, right? And then look for people that can fill in your gaps, that you really trust. Whenever I go to an event like this, I'm talking to people, I try to find out what they're really passionate about, and if it's something that I really need. And those are the types of people that I recruit.
Are you willing to burn your boats? So I guess I think one other founder, when I was a student, told me what's it like doing a startup? It's like putting it all on red and letting it ride. I wouldn't recommend doing startups for most people, and it's because you you don't really know what you're taking on, and I don't think most people know exactly what entails. Even Jensen Huang, right? The founder of probably the biggest gaming company. People don't realize NVIDIA was a gaming company. And he said he wouldn't found NVIDIA if given the chance again. And so I understand where he's coming from, because I think that, for most people, it's not worth the effort, right? They're oh, well, I'm going to get paid a high quality FANG job somewhere else. Why would I take the risk to go and do this? So you have to really ask yourself, what are you willing to do to be able to go and achieve what you want? Because I think that if you are going to work with anybody, then you have to be aligned, right? Robert Downey Jr. was famous for making some mistakes early in his career, and I remember when given the opportunity to have a second chance, he said that we're making a really good product. And I heard that word when I encountered Electronic Arts. They described what they did was a product. And I was like, oh, wow, like I went into the game industry to work on art or work on something like special. I didn't think of it as a product. But product means alignment, right? Like if you go to VCs and you're going to sell 20% of your company, you are a product to them, right? So you have to realize that when you do things and you want other people to be involved, you also have to understand their perspective. And if you're unwilling to do that, then you're not going to have as much help or resources to do what you want to do.
I think this is a very personal thing to answer for each one of us. The process through which we will come to an answer is different. So I can't speak to my experience. I always knew that one day I was going to start my own company. Always knew, never questioned it. Just prepared for it for years. I'm a kind of late founder. I founded my company in my 40s, 20 years into my career. I had to save money, I had to save skills, etc., etc. But for me, I am one of the, the FANG. I worked for Microsoft and Amazon combined 11 years, and I was making very good money. I was working on projects that I enjoyed working on. These big companies can give you things that are intellectually stimulating and satisfying while also paying you enough that you can do your Hawaiian vacation every year and the new Tesla comes out and you're able to afford it. All that stuff, right? You work in these nice offices with amazing landscaped yards. And it's all great. The difference for me was the aspect of control. I don't get to choose what I build, even though I may enjoy what I build. Like I built Amazon Go, the store, right? The cashier, the store. Amazing set of problems I got to work on. Super fun, super satisfying as an engineer. But I don't choose what to build. I choose how to build it. And after I founded my company, now I have full control. I don't have to convince a VP somewhere to start a project. It's between my, it's here. I decide what we build. I decide which direction my company goes. So that control is the thing that you don't have in the Amazons and Microsofts and those jobs, even though they may be great. So that's my answer. My answer was I want this control over this comfort. Hence, I'm going to found my company. This answer may be different for different people, but I think that's a big difference.
So no control, but no net either. So,
correct,
yeah.
yes. All kinds of risk and stress and insane sleepless nights and like pitching and getting to hear no and all that stuff. But yes, control.
My story is something different, I guess. I agree with you that it's all very personal, right? I've been gaming since pretty much after school, and I've been very lucky. So after I quit my last company, I was like, wow, what do I want to do now? Like, I want to do something else as a startup, doing like sharing economy, whatever back then. But one day I realized that, you know what, I've been working on an entitlement system for 4 years, for 4 different entitlement systems for 4 different projects. And I feel that how lucky I've been that maybe it's time for me to make my last entitlement systems, build it, and then make it available for everybody, as opposed to available for the projects that I was part of, like the company I was part of, right? So it's really about the fact that I was so lucky and grateful that the gaming provides for me and my family, and really it's about doing the last act, for the lack of a better word. I'm a big founder too. If you ask me, I don't know, 10 years ago when I started a company, I would say no, absolutely not, right? I don't know what it is, but I think one thing led to another. I guess for me, it's really about just go with the flow, And when you feel it's right, I think so. Somebody asked me this: what would you advise me if I were to start a company? My answer would be that my answer was, if you feel it's right, everything's kind of, the universe has a way to just show you the road, so to speak. Maybe a bit weird coming from somebody who has engineering background, but I somehow just happens to me. So maybe that's why it's a bit more personal from my case.
Okay, so the conception or the inception, the decision to sort of found a company is a very personal one, but at the same time, I think there's a number of sort of common issues or themes or things to sort of be aware of, sort of the basics. One of them is, as you mentioned, sort of like surround yourself with people who compliment you, that you trust. What are some others?
I have a superpower. My superpower is to invite 1,000 people a week to an event. And it's a feature of LinkedIn, but also I've been able to max out my 30,000 possible connections on the platform. So I've reached the end screen. So why is that? I've been a part of multiple ecosystems, and the way that you're able to sort of garner resources in any ecosystem is to be able to network fast and quickly. And so this is like my 5th or 6th ecosystem that I've been part of. And it's, really about being really fast and intentional about what you're trying to do, right? Like one of the things that I do is I will, at a lot of events, like if my KPI is to go to that event to raise money, if I don't meet an investor in the first 5 minutes, I bounce. And it's because okay, well, whoever put together this event, wasn't thinking about people like me who survive on raising money, right? To be able to build their product, to afford the people, to do all the things that they want to do. It's like paint, right? You need to find people who can give you paint if you want to make a painting. So yeah, I think that who here uses spreadsheets? All right, so you have a tool to be very intentional about how you network. And the goal is, who here has ever done sales? All right, so keep your hands up who has done sales. All right, these people will be more-ish successful at being a founder than the rest of you. And the reason for that is if you don't like sales, you're probably not going to be able to get the resources that you need. You're not going to be able to sell the talent. You're not going to be able to sell the investor. You're not going to be able to sell the public on the resources that you need. And so Excel is a way to, do you know the saying with Sun Tzu, only enter battle if you know you've won? So a lot of people just kind of go about life and okay, people will just find me, magically. But you can basically download, just rows and rows of people on a spreadsheet, and then look at the details on that spreadsheet and say, hey, is it even worth me meeting that person? Or is it going to cost me the time to meet the people who would otherwise say yes? And if you're not spending a lot of your time in that spreadsheet, you're wasting a lot of time in person. So you have to be able to work in digital time to be able to eliminate as many meetings and say no to as many people as you can in order to meet the people who will tell you yes. And that takes a lot of homework, and most people don't like to do the homework, right? They just like to go and have beers with their friends. It's oh, that's great. There's nothing wrong with spending quality time with people. But if you have a goal, right, and if you need paint, right, you need to go to people who sell paint. And you need to find who has the right paint to make the right painting. So spend a lot of time, I think in sales it's called qualify, qualify, qualify.
I had something kind of similar to say, but almost the opposite though. I don't go to an event treating like the people I need to meet as a KPI. I think it's because I don't know what KPI stands for, but I also don't believe in putting people on a spreadsheet so much, because I think you should stay the entire time. You shouldn't bounce after 5 minutes, because in my experience, you never know who you're going to meet just organically by bouncing around and talking to everyone and making friends. I completely agree that you should be leveraging these platforms and using them in every event that you can possibly go to. You should network as much as possible. But I think if someone just doesn't fit exactly what you're looking for right now, that doesn't matter. I think it's important to make incredible relationships. I have several tangible examples. Like I've met someone who was not at Nintendo, just met him, was friends with him, had beers with him, and later he became like a major person at Nintendo, and I launched 2 of the first 70 games on Switch, like just because we were buddies, and that made so much money. I've had stories about that with like Humble Bundle. I am probably going to sign a $1 million deal with a publisher eventually that I'm talking to, probably going to be months from now, but I just randomly met this dude at a PAX party last year just by, it's like 1 a.m., I'm tired, but I'll try this one other thing, see what's going on, and I liked his jacket, so I went and talked to him, and then this is happening. So, I don't know, he would never have ended up on a spreadsheet, but I met him, and now we're buddies and hang out at conferences, and he's going to post my game. So I think my advice is to talk to everyone, do a lot of what you said, but stay after 5 minutes after getting somewhere. And don't just realize that no one's here for you, because someone is there for you. You just don't know who it is. Like someone in this room is a connection that you will make if you just talk to everyone and stay in contact and be friendly and be nice, and don't approach things necessarily wanting to get something from someone. I think that could happen later, but just just keep your network wide open, and you never know what's going to happen.
I think there's lots of different approaches to networking, but the key takeaway, I think, is relationships are everything. You don't build a company, a successful company, in a vacuum. You build a company with people that you have relationships with, and then you build relationships within, and you sort of build progressively out from that central core that you found with. What else? What are some other sort of really basic bits of advice that you wish you had known, that you've learned the hard way founding a company?
Maybe, so again, my background is like I've been working for 10, 15 years, whatever, right? So I think what I learned is that sometimes people who you work with in the past, I think it's a really, really good network, especially if you work a little bit closer, just because there's a lot of trust already built in there. That maybe you may not start a company with them, but maybe they can be a customer, or they can be a publishers, whatever, right? So for people who have been in the industry a little bit longer and you want to think about maybe starting a company or whatnot, I also would suggest that you reach back out to the people we work with. The person who I worked with 18 years ago is now our head of engineering. He was my ex-boss at my first company. So things like that, I think it is important. So if you have a little bit experience, maybe the older side like we do, right? I think there's still a lot of hope. I think I would suggest reach back to the people who you worked with in the past.
I can kind of add one small thing to that, and then I have another point to make. I kept, like I said, I've always known I was eventually going to start my own company. One of the things I did over the years while I was working at other companies as an employee was I kind of mentally kept this short list of potential co-founders that I could one day work with. Like I worked with some guy in a project, and like elbow to elbow when you're working, you really get to know people through thick and thin, and like the stresses and the pressures of a project. And then you kind of, those are the people you really get to know well. And if you kind of click with someone, and in that context, you're likely to be able to work together in the pressures of founding. So I had a list of 3 people from 20 years of career. And one of them is my co-founder. So that's kind of very along the lines of what you're saying. But another point I was going to make is I think anytime you're at an event like this and you're hearing advice like this from people like us or anybody else. One of the things I found for myself was everybody has different personalities, everybody has different strengths, different levels of outgoingness and isolation or whatever else. We have different personalities, we have different strengths. I think it's critical to take good advice and adjust it to you so it becomes you. It's very critical to find your own voice. Like, you have to find your version of a good networker. You have to find your own version of a good salesperson. My sales skills aren't going to manifest in the same way that someone different might have. So I think it's critical. It's kind of a balancing act of continuously learning more about yourself, what you're comfortable with. And it's also like you have to push out of your comfort zone. That's truth. Like, don't stop at like you see an advice and then you're like, oh, but I'm not like that, so I'm not going to do it. No, like give it a try. Like find a way to adjust it to your personality, so that you're always kind of just slightly out of your comfort zone, maybe, but also you're not lying. You are you. You're not performing an act. You're not going through some script. You are you. I think that applies to many things, networking or sales being one, or pitching will be another one, right? So I think it's up to us to kind of always pay attention to getting new information from outside, new behaviors, learning new behaviors, new tricks, but also looking inside and seeing how can I adjust this to myself so that I am still me.
Awesome. How has, so some of you guys have founded multiple companies over the years. How has founding a company today changed from when you may have founded your first company or when you first founded your company? How's the environment for even doing it changed over the years? Who wants to take that one? You want to start with that one? You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. So I founded Game Salad after the housing crisis. So it was like right after the iPhone launched. And so we were in the middle of a platform shift. I just recently graduated from Carnegie Mellon and also finished at Apple. And as soon as I landed in Austin, like there was this guy that wanted to write us a $100K check because he found out we were from Carnegie Mellon. And it was just kind of blew my mind that like the college that I went to was that famous. I just went there for video games. And so it was fortunate that we didn't accept the cash because the housing crisis happened like literally months afterwards. So knowing that I had no resources, no people to raise money from, I ended up basically building a founder's house with a couple of my friends from Carnegie Mellon. And we just basically built for 3 years until we had a product and brought it to profitability and had 400,000 users. And so and because I knew that I was a student and I looked at the spreadsheet of like, okay, I know no VCs, I decided I was just gonna bootstrap this, and that was like kind of the way to do it in Austin. But I had also built a spreadsheet of like, okay, where are my connections going to be? My second set of connections was going to be in Berkeley. So had I started in Berkeley, I would have had a different set of network to be able to build a company on. And so my first company, it was just based out of my middle school hobby, right? I picked up game creation, because I found it fun. I was very intrinsic. My second company was like, okay, well, I had already raised like, 20 million on this first company. Like, I'm going to start a second one that's going to be like my art play. So we did natural language to images and like to help people tell stories. And like the problem that we're trying to solve is like, oh, people don't tell stories. And like, that's like, 1,000 other pitches. And then when that didn't work out, it was like, okay, well, let's design something that I feel that I could actually go and pitch investors with. And so part of it is like call and response, where like, investors will say, sell me this pen. It's like, oh, it has AI, right? But yeah, it just really depends on what type of person and what type of company you want to do, person you want to be, and a company you want to do. And so I think a lot of people want to be unicorns, but you also have to be aware of success bias, right? The people who do become unicorns, you don't think of all the people and mistakes who did exactly the same number of things, and then just it didn't work out, right? So I think we tend to herald all these people that are very famous, but we don't think about like, okay, who are the people how can I learn from all the people that came before me? So in each company, we did something different, right? And I feel like that's sort of the natural nature of being sane, because if you try the same thing twice and expect a different result, I should stop. And expect a different result, then that's like the definition of insanity. So it was a lot of like, effing around and finding out, but at the same time, it's like taking measured approaches and learning from every experience. So I think the one thing you could probably do to like learn in mass is just basically type in the GPT, okay, like what are all the mistakes that people make, right, for any XYZ activity, and then be actionable about doing it, right? So some people like just see it as entertainment. It's like, oh, that's great, that's good that I know about it. But few people actually go about and take that list and internalize it and change their behavior based on that. And so I think that if you're not willing to do that as a founder, then it's going to be a lot easier just to get paid to do what you want to do for someone else.
Who else? How has founding a game company changed over time?
It became really hard to fundraise. And Michael mentioned it. It's the easiest to fundraise when there's like a platform switch. So when there's like a new narrative, what I've realized is like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna fundraise when I'm ready, right? Like I'm gonna get all this traction. Like I have some players and they're playing the game. I'm gonna just make sure my LTV is like this, and then I'm gonna go, get this perfect pitch deck. But like you should just go when the platform switch happens, because like if you're raising from VCs, they've raised money. Like they themselves have raised money from LPs, like really rich people. And they have to spend it, right? And then they're a little bit more liberal with the money in the beginning. And so when that platform switch happens, you need to go. And even if you don't even have a pitch deck, just have that meeting with them, no matter what stage you're at. Of course, you do have to fit in that narrative a little bit, but even if you're loosely in that narrative, you could raise. And that's what we did. We didn't have a pitch deck. We had a Notion doc, and we raised $2 million off of it. It was kind of insane. And now, like with traction, like with like hundreds of thousands of players, and with lots of revenue, we still couldn't raise at the end. It's like, sorry.
Would you define platform switch?
Yeah. So when AI happened, or like when the Apple phone came out,
Okay.
and the App Store, like any like big change where people are doing things differently. Yeah.
So you mentioned the magic word, which is traction. We should talk a little bit more about traction, what it is, what it means, how do you even think about that? I mean, it is kind of like the coin of the realm when you're out trying to find a partner, whether it's a VC or a publisher or whatever. All anybody cares about is traction right now. So, well, That is, of course, yeah, the fundamental question. I think if I put my publisher hat on for a second, and I look at PC gaming, traction is how many wish lists have you got? Now on console, that's a little bit harder. For mobile, it's sort of what's your DAU or your MAU. But it's fundamentally what demonstration have you made? What number can you show me that there are actually people out there who want to play this thing or consume this thing that you built? So that's what it is. How do you get it? How do you prove it? How do you actually convince your potential partner that it's real?
I'll just throw in a little thing. I think before when we talk about traction, I just want to make sure that we are not just like completely focusing on raising funds from VCs or publishers. There are many people in Seattle Indies that are Talia is a good example of this. You can make your game, you can self-fund it, and you can sell enough of it without pitching and fundraising and all that stuff, right? So there's the traction question only is relevant if you are somehow building a company and want to give away some of your shares for some funds, or you're building a game, a project, and you're going to give some of your revenue for some funds. So project-based revenue sharing style deals, or company-based, equity-based share selling type of deals. What I'd say is, first of all, I think it's very critical to understand some of the logistics, the mechanics of how these funding models work. What does it mean to be a minority equity investor? What does it mean to be an angel investor? What is a SAFE? What's the difference between the 2013 SAFE and the 2018 SAFE? You might not know these things, and it's okay, like your lawyers will, but I think it's critical to understand like how VC funding or equity investing works at all. How do you get diluted? How do those things work? And this isn't science. This is like 3 hours of reading and 2 hours of YouTube videos. And I think you can get to like 70% of the depth of someone who really knows this stuff. And that's going to be a good way to kind of at least form a mental model around those things. And then I think to Pawan's point, it's really what I've experienced is the timing, like you say, is so critical in how these things work. Like whether you're in 2021 versus 2023 versus 2025. Typically, on a fundamental level, when you're pitching and you're raising funds, you go to a publisher or a VC, and you're telling them about the opportunity that you're building, that this is going to make so much money. Here's what we're going to build. Please give us your money, kind of thing. That exchange, from the investor's point of view, what they want to see you have at the time you're pitching, changes by that year. Like in 2021, what you needed to have with you on that pitch meeting is different than 2023 and 2025. So traction becomes a key thing on terrible fundraising times like now. Okay, like it wasn't that like that in 2022. And then, yes, I guess now we can talk about traction itself. And the expected traction numbers, even the vicious numbers, like what John is saying, are changing insanely. Like 10,000 wish lists on Steam for a game as a product type of game was good. Like 2 years ago, it was like, wow, 10,000, that's good. Like that's where Steam algorithm starts giving you like extra impressions on various widgets. Now, when I talk to publishers today, they're like, oh, I'm not gonna like get out of my bed for less than 50,000 wish lists. So I don't, like there isn't a clear answer to, in my mind, what traction should be. Like you really need to be in touch, talking to people, seeing what the current traction metrics are. If you are into the mindset of, hey, I need to go find someone.
So I want to push back on that just a little bit. So it is true that for partners, traction, however you express it, is kind of something that they're looking for. But even as a developer, as you are spending your money to make your game, it behooves you to find ways to determine, am I building something that people actually want? Otherwise, you're an artist at that point, which is great. If you want to make art, that's cool. But if you want to be a commercial artist and actually like make a living from it, then there are going to be people out there who want to consume that product. And to assume that you don't need to worry about traction if you're not going to raise money is great if you are the child of some wealthy, magnate. But if you have to make a living at this, then paying attention to, is there an audience out there for what I'm building is kind of important.
I think this is a reminder to put your Steam page live as soon as possible. If you haven't done so, like every wish list counts, and it's absolutely a quadratic snowball effect. The rich get richer in terms of wish lists.
Yeah, so traction is what people ask for when you haven't built FOMO. Right? We all like to think that we live in a rational world. And when you try to communicate with like logic and data, I think that the lizard part of our brain just doesn't trigger, right? Like we have grown up as an oral society to tell stories. And so your ability to basically clue in the design side of your brain and say, hey, like, I need to be able to tell a story to build FOMO around this idea is the skill that you need to employ at this point in order to get any backing on anything. Like, it's totally fine to like make your dream project, right? But if your dream project involves making a Marvel, like something akin to a Marvel movie, who here can say that they can build a Marvel film based on the resources they have in their pocket? So in order to build bigger ideas, in order to be able to tell bigger stories, in order to be able to do larger things of bigger consequence, right, then you're going to need resources, and you're going to have to try harder to basically appeal to the emotional side of each person to be able to get those resources. Because traction is not really traction, it's more of evidence. Right? So it's not that traction is not going to help you at all. It's if you can provide more evidence than the next guy and get that evidence as cheap as you can, right? Like do scientific method where the cost of running that experiment was as cheap as possible. Like even if it was a survey of like 100 people, that's going to be cheaper than releasing a product. Don't build unless you have to. Don't spend money unless you have to. Like, don't do anything unless you really have to in order to build evidence. Your job as a person who's to garner resources is to build evidence. The more evidence you have, the more FOMO you can build, right? So for example, one point of evidence is saying, okay, are you fundraising? The answer should be no. Why aren't you fundraising? Oh, I wanted to build up the relationship, right? I wanted to get to know you better, but we're not at a point to where there is, what you're doing is you're building scarcity around the opportunity, right? I can't accept your money right now, but people want a Labubu, people want a Pokemon, like people want what they cannot have, right? And so when you have 40 people lined up over 15 minutes each in Zoom calls over 1 week, then you can say, I have 40 investors lined up this week. That is evidence. Is that enough FOMO for you? And see how that changes the minds of certain people. Like look at their emotional reactions as you pitch them. It's sort of like being a comic, right? Not a lot of your jokes are going to fall, right? Like people are just going to be like chuckle here, okay, not very funny. But you keep on changing the punchline, keep on changing your jokes, keep on trying again. Pitch the people that you probably don't want to raise money from, and practice with them first. And the saying like, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money, right? When you ask for advice, you show that you're giving evidence that you are coachable and that you're willing to work with this person. And so that's yet another point of evidence. And then if that person trusts you enough, you're able to build rapport, and you build up that evidence, then they will trust you enough. Or maybe they'll come to you. I just had an investor last week who I was actively avoiding pitching because I wanted to preserve the relationship, and they wanted to invest anyway. And so it's all about FOMO first. If you absolutely have to spend the money to build that evidence, go and do that, but try to be as frugal as you can in order to do those tests.
To me, fraction also means you have a product market fit, right? I mean, obviously one way to fund your product or to have a product market fit is to get an investor. But I think that's also can be tough, especially in these times, right? Perhaps another way that I want to encourage you all to think about is maybe get the money from your customer. If there's a customer who's willing to buy your game, right, on early access, if there's a customer who's willing to pay you for your product, I think that's probably also a good sign that you can take to your investors, whatever, right? But I want to obviously present a little bit slightly different angle where sometimes the easier way to get money is actually not to sing and dance in front of these people with money, right? But also maybe sing and dance in front of your customers, so you could maybe get the validation, because that probably is also equally as powerful than getting equally as powerful as having 40 investors lining up for you. Having 40 customers lining up for you is actually as powerful to investors.
Oh, so my studio never did Steam games. We did mobile and web. So for us, a great way of experimenting was pushing a game up onto like a web platform like Crazy Games or MSN Games, and just seeing whether people liked it or not. So for Steam, out of curiosity to all of you and maybe the audience, what has worked really well for increasing your wish lists?
Yeah, Steam events, 100%. Like, if you can find out about any online Steam events, like I just had a game in the Cerebral Puzzle Showcase, and run a video, like a live stream, even though it's obviously not live the entire time. That will make your game rise to the top. And then, like I just said, rich get richer in terms of wish lists. Going into something like this with a lot of wish lists, also put your game at the top, which gets even more wish lists, and then you do several events with having your game on Steam for years, maybe, depending on how long. If you do event after event after event, it gets higher and higher and higher each time. That's that quadratic formula here of wish lists that happen. So Steam events is my answer.
Certainly, I work with a number of folks who've done a lot of work with influencers and getting a crowd of influencers who are interested in your game and will stream it regularly, even if they're small. That has impact.
I'm sorry, how do you go about finding these influencers? Like, you source them out?
You build a spreadsheet of 500 influencers and their contact information, or you borrow it from another developer because they'll get shared around, and then you just hit them all cold.
So for Twitch and YouTube, you can search by game. So I'm working on a game that's very much like Portal or Antichamber or Superliminal. I look up those games and be like, look at all these YouTubers who are making Portal videos or Superliminal videos. You're gonna love Desolus. Then that's exactly what I do. Like, I saw you play Portal. You're all this play this game.
We've done the spreadsheet and more manual approach from time to time, and I think that works well too. But there were times we wanted to do this at a bigger scale, like when we wanted to. There was a milestone coming up, and we wanted to work with 40, 50, 60 influencers from across the globe at the same time. Like setting up meetings with them and reaching out to them, all that manual thing may take a lot of time. So there are some platforms, one of which I know is Lurkit. We use Lurkit a lot for that. And what I found was, it's a platform or think of it like a social media, Facebook type of thing. You have a page for your game, for your campaign, and there are these 100,000 streamers from all around the world on that platform. When you put your campaign up, they get to see it. It can be unpaid, like key exchange type of deals as well, but what we did was paid campaigns. Then they submit their bids for, like, you specify, hey, I want a 5-minute video with this talking points on YouTube or Twitch or this other platform, and then they submit, and there's like you can do it very fast through that kind of platform, but it costs money. So to be a studio that's taking advantage of that, it costs money. It's free to the influencers. So that's one way to do it. I think one of the things that I'm going to add though, and this especially this is important if you're at the beginning of your founder journey. As much as anything, any of the like Steam Next Fest or other festivals or working with influencers, whatever like marketing trick you're gonna use, I think one factor matters more than all of them, which is your genre and how open the audience is of that genre to try new games in that genre. So like things start way before any of this. How well you're gonna do on Steam starts way before any of your influencer campaigns or your festivals. It starts when you're choosing what game to build, I think. And like we had a lot of challenges that we had to face in my company through this issue. So I'd say I just wanted to put that in there. Like pick the right. There are genres that work well. There are genres that don't work well with Steam, no matter how much money.
I want to double down on
the person making the MOBA.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I want to double down on the genre. Like, my favorite game to design is a Sokoban, and that is literally the least grossing genre on Steam. So now I'm making an action roguelike, even though I don't play them, because that is a very popular genre on Steam. And you can find the intersection of a game that you want to make and a game that sells well. You probably have more than one game idea. I hope so. But if you have 10, well, 10 ideas that you want to make, find the one that you do this research on and is the best-selling genre, or is the most likely whatever equation you use to make the most money.
So I used to go to an event in Austin, Texas called Project Horseshoe, where like the top designers from EA and all the studios would come, and we would just basically form a think tank. And at the end of that week, outside of drinking and playing board games, we'd also come up with a white paper at the end. And one of the designers, I think he was at Microsoft at the time, but he is known for Spry Fox, Seattle Spry Fox, sold to Netflix. So he told me about the concept of red ocean and blue ocean, which is the term that he learned from Microsoft. And red ocean is filled with pirates, of cutthroat. Everything is a pure competition. Everyone is trying to go after the same thing. And the oceans are filled with blood. Blue ocean is open water, free to sail, no competition. You can do whatever you want. So you'll notice that like the first of a genre is pretty ugly. Like you get Minecraft, you get Gorilla Tag, you get Roblox, like the first versions of Warcraft, the first version of any game looks really ugly. And why is that? It's because the bar was really low when they created that genre, right? They were in a blue ocean. There was no obligation to create something that was competitive because it was a brand new space. And they were going after brand new sets of people, right? Like Nintendo was going after this blue ocean of people who like, certain types of games, whereas like, Sony and Microsoft are going after this red ocean of like realism and grittiness, right? So I think when you select your idea, it's when you have to go for a red ocean, do acknowledge that you're going to have to spend more money, more time, more effort to get a smaller slice of that pie. But if you go after a blue ocean, you may have to spend less after a market that might be even larger, right? People don't consider mobile games, people don't consider social networks to be a video game. You have points, you have a goal, right? People play on it. There's mechanics, right? Like you have this little, slot machine type feed thing going on. It is a game, but they just don't call it a game. And because they don't call it a game, oh, it's a new market. So you have to realize that like when you pick your idea, like that you might find adversity in trying to do something that everyone else wants to do, you might end up getting rewarded for or not have to do as much to get to market faster for going after ideas that other people haven't even considered.
So in the time that we have remaining, I thought I'd open it up for questions. Who has a question about founders, games? Let's hear them. Yes.
I was gonna wait, but I'll just, what was the web platforms you were talking about? If you're gonna do a web-based game.
Oh, Crazy Games?
Oh, sorry, Crazy Games and MSN Games. They do revenue share. It's actually pretty decent. I was surprised. I questioned the Microsoft person. He was like, "Do people play web games?" And he said, "Yeah, lots of kids at school play web games." And that's what he said to me. Like, that's a large part of their audience. And then people at work, like, I guess.
Did you say
Yeah.
HIO?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
HIO also.
HIO. Oh yeah. So I think HIO is a great place to like post. I mean, it's a no-brainer to post your game there and just to start building an audience and stuff to your Discord. But yeah, it's a different audience, and you're not gonna get paid. And then also like if you're on the Crazy Games website, you might get millions of plays, and so you could see what your DAU is, your LTV. You could see all these numbers and what they look like with a lot of people playing it. And those definitely help you if you're having a conversation with the publisher, and it lets you like play around with the game concepts faster, right? Like I hated making mobile games because it would just break on like random phones, and then but for the web, it's like it's so much easier. Yeah.
My question is specifically to you and anyone else who kind of also felt this way. If you feel like you're eventually going to start something and you want to start your own company, did you feel like you also knew the direction, like kind of what it was going to end up as? Or like how did that develop as you got closer to that time period where you're like, I feel like I'm ready to start it? Did you start searching for it more? I know you were kind of always keeping it in the back of your head. Kind of what was that process like?
Are you asking like what finally pushed me over to kind of take the step, or?
Yeah, kind of what pushed you over, and then also like when did you feel like you found the thing to found the company around?
Oh, I see.
Knowing that idea.
So again, in my personal experience, I did not actually know. I mean, I knew I was going to build a game studio, but I did not know what game I would build. At the time, I decided to leave my corporate job and kind of start my indie journey. So the first part of the question, I don't know. I kind of got bored, I guess, in corporate. Like there came a point where I was tired of the bureaucracy of. Like I knew that I had the right answer for a particular technical problem, and to get the team to do that was so much work of like gaining allies and like the intra-company politics and building support from and like pissing off that other team at the side, but still making sure they're okay. Like that entire thing. There came a point after so many years that I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to have the control, like I said at the beginning. So I kind of took that jump. I had it, and what I was first thinking that I would do, I was planning to be a solo indie developer when I left Amazon in 2017. And I was for about a year, and then one of these 3 people in my short list of potential co-founders became available during that time, and suddenly when that happened, we were like, okay, let's co-found something together, and then things kind of grew from there. But no, to answer that, like honestly, I didn't know what I was gonna build.
What made them available?
Said it-
What made your co-founder available? What happened?
Oh, he was working in a game studio that was sold to a big telecom company. And for like, what, 10, 12 years, that was the arrangement. And then eventually that parent company decided to shut down that game studio in 2017. So like he was out of work. Like I thought my idea of going indie was too crazy to kind of pull him in, but now suddenly he's.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
That person I was looking at was suddenly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's a great feeling. Like we didn't even talk. Like with my buddy, what happened was like, of course we're gonna like do things together now. Like we didn't have like I didn't go to him and have a conversation. Hey, would you like to co-found? So like it was just so organic with us. So yeah, like what we ended up building took shape over the next 3 or so years. It took a long time. We explored a lot of different things.
So how did you know that your co-founder was going to be in it for a long time? Because how did you know that they were going to be in it for the long run as opposed to just like this as a short-term thing between me finding a job?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. He was someone that I knew for about 20 years at that time. We have done kind of side projects on the European demo scene side for many years. Those were large-scale, long-term, like 50,000 hour projects that we did on the side from our day jobs. So I knew I knew him enough to trust him, and I was right in that sense.
Other questions? Yeah.
Hey, could you please give us a general kind of like guidance or overall scope of their investor segment for like games in general? Because if you look at the overall VC investments specifically throughout the years, like a large proportion goes to healthcare, and then it's B2B SaaS, and then it's like other like segments. So I'm kind of interested in hearing you guys of like, you know, in your opinion, what kind of investors kind of invested in games? What's just the general overall scope, I would say in general. Yeah, thank you.
I can throw in this quick reference about this that you might want. I mean, this is a longer topic, but I'd recommend.
We have a whole panel on this at Slice.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I recommend you guys check out Jason De La Roca. He's one of the kind of famous people about this. He's a close friend and an investor, a shareholder in my company as well. So he had many GDC talks year after year after year after year that talk about what type of investor goes after which type of monetization model in what game. Like the mainly being game as a product versus game as a service. VCs and equity investors go for one, publishers go for the other. You know, there's some content that you can consume that's readily available on YouTube. Not necessarily the GDC Vault. The free stuff on YouTube covers most of this. So that's I think a good way to start there.
So you'll hear this commonly said with investors that I don't want to invest in a hit-based business. It's because you have one shot to go for it, and if it fails, then you've lost their money. You'll commonly hear them say, "Oh, I want to invest in games factories, right? I want to know that you have the ability to mitigate risk by doing it again and again and again with very little expenditure to make the next hit, right?" And so I think that lends itself to a lot of platforms and AI. Who here thought that Pixar was created to make Toy Story? Right, so Pixar started as a computer company. So it spun out of like THX, and they didn't have intent to make media. They had intent to make platforms. And so it just so happened that they decided to pivot into making hits. And so you can, validly start in something that investors are willing to fund. And then you might find yourself, in order to get the results that everyone, wants to achieve, you might find yourself creating that hit based on the concept of that platform, right? Like, for example, like Fortnite, right? Fortnite wasn't their first product, right? I think what helped Epic was the ability to create Unreal. And Unreal was a factory. And they were able to create game after game after game, and that helped fund a hit like Fortnite. Same thing with Steam. Nobody at like Valve wanted to work on it, so you had to hire a completely separate team to actually go and build it, because everyone wanted to be able to make games, and nobody could agree on what to work on next. And Steam ended up funding everything down the line. And so one thing you might want to consider is like, okay, well, am I testing out just one hit, or am I testing this idea as a factory? Right? Then they can make hit after hit, like Wes Anderson, right? Like he has a factory way of creating films that sort of fit a certain language, and he can make it cheaper and cheaper each time. So that's one thing to kind of consider.
I think we have time for one more question. There we go.
Hello. Hello, my name is Ismail Diab, and I'm a student at UWT. And my question for you guys in all the indie space is, as students, we would like to find a way to like help the indie space and everybody who's startup who's starting any game. And the only idea I have is like feedback. Like we tried the game, what other ways could we like help? Pretty much.
Oh, sorry. I was about to say something, and then I thought someone else was. Yeah, so in the Seattle Indies Discord, there is a volunteer channel, and there are lots of indie studios looking for volunteers to help QA games, to help with community efforts, to help with art, game design. So there's like so many ways of contributing to this community, like right here, to helping the people here build their games.
When I was building Game Salad, I didn't even launch the product yet. I was asked to teach a class at the University of Texas as soon as I landed in Austin, because I was part of an accredited university at a master's, right? So even before I released the product, I had students using it, and then I think the very first game jam happened around 2007, 2008. And I was able to use those game jams as a Daytona for our engine. And so I basically gave a very short tutorial on how to use our unreleased software to a bunch of people who didn't even know how to code and just were trying to prototype all their games on paper. And this was a way to finally, build that game that they could finally ship on an app store without having to depend on another engineer, right? Because we didn't have enough people who could code at the actual game jam. And so, from that, we got a lot of feedback onto like what were the difficulties that people ran into on our own software. But we also got to see what type of games they built, right? And like, what worked and what didn't, and like what features they wanted to have. And so I think that like, a good way to interface with universities is that there's a demographic of people that will most likely have increased buying power over time as they get jobs and they have a lot of time to be able to use your software and to play with it. And so it's a way to be able to make sure that you're in alignment in terms of your product and what that demographic of people wants to be able to use.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say something kind of unrelated to this, but I think this is important. The fact that you asked this question, like where your heart is in asking this question, I think is a significant thing to talk about to a bunch of founders. And this is now me speculating. These are my personal opinions, but I think currently there is a growing kind of anti-corporate sentiment in the overall gaming audience, much more so in the younger generations. And so a student that asks, hey, I want to help be beneficial to indie studios, like you probably don't ask this question to if there's the CEO of EA here, right? So there is this anti-corporate thing going on, pro-indie point of view going on, which is important to note because I think it impacts some of the aesthetic decisions that you might make about your game. For instance, in my studio, for the next series of games we're looking at, we have made a conscious decision to look more indie. Like our existing games are more polished, and now in many people's minds, graphical polish is more, aligned with corporate. You don't want to look corporate, like you want to look more indie these days. And, again, this is very personal opinion, but I think like when you ask this question with such good intentions, I couldn't help but mention this too.
All right, how about a round of applause for our.
Yeah. Thank you, Ty, Bhavan, John, Michael, Bilgum, June, all for being here, providing great insights for everybody here in the audience tonight, for the people watching at home on Twitch and YouTube. Hello to you. Just thank you again to our hosts here at ThinkSpace. If you like the place, this could be your office. Like, they have hosted shared workspaces available here, so you can talk to one of the people working at the place if you're interested in renting a space here, and set up shop and work right on the lake every day and have this beautiful view. So yeah, thanks again, ThinkSpace for hosting. Thanks ExcelByte for sponsoring the event tonight. ExcelByte Game Services is ready to use backend for online games that covers identity, matchmaking, in-game store, and more to help game studios launch sooner. Focus on building great gameplay and avoid the cost and delays of building and maintaining these backend systems from scratch. So if that sounds like something you need for your game, talk to Shin in the back, June, the founder of the company. They can get you started on that. And we also have a couple of friends from Microsoft, Xbox, in the very back of the room. They're here. If you're trying to get your game or your studio set up on Xbox, go chat with them. They can get you helped out with that. And don't forget about Slice, like I mentioned. A bunch of us will be there. Myself, Ty, John, we're all on the organizing team. So you'll see us around and hosting panels and running around like crazy people probably. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. Hope to see you all there. We can hang out here for a little longer and chat. So thanks for coming, everybody, and get home safe.